In this video, I'm going to introduce you to Autodesk Revit. If you go to your Start menu and go to All Apps, scroll down to Autodesk, and you'll see Revit 2017, not the viewer. Open up Revit 2017. We're going to create a new project. Several ways of doing that. If this menu is open, you could select New, or you could come up to the R and select New here. Select New Project. Select Architectural Template. Make sure this radio button is on and select OK. Let's start out by going over some of the menus. This menu here is your quick access toolbar. When you first start up Inventor, it may be positioned up here along the top, maybe up here. The preferred location is down here underneath the ribbon. The problem is if you reduce the size of the window, the quick access toolbar gets truncated and you may not be able to see it. Select this pull-down menu and this other one below it, and select this Show Below ribbon. And now as you add commands to your quick access toolbar, it can expand all the way across the window. These are the commands that I use the most. You may not see these commands, but you can add any command you want. Let's say I find myself using this model line frequently. I can hover over the command, right mouse button, and select Add to Quick Access Toolbar. And you notice that it's here now. It's at both locations. It's here in the ribbon, and now it's in my Quick Access Toolbar. I'm going to go ahead and I can remove it by hovering over the command, right mouse button, and remove from Quick Access Toolbar. You can also customize the Quick Access Toolbar here. If you select this pull-down menu, you notice that if one of these commands is checked, it will be displayed on your Quick Access Toolbar. If you do not want it displayed, you could just uncheck it. And there are other customized tools down here. But once again, this is the preferred location, and populate this with your favorite commands. These are your ribbons. There are quite a few of them. Each tab represents a ribbon. For the most part, you'll be here in this tab, the architectural ribbon, probably 90% of the time. But you'll also use this view ribbon and the manage ribbon. You could minimize the size of the ribbon using this menu pick here. If I select it, notice that now my commands have been reduced to large icons. If I select it again, notice that my commands have been reduced to small tabs. And if I select this again, it disappears altogether, and all you see are the tabs of the ribbons and my quick access toolbar. If you ever open up Revit and your ribbon is gone, simply come up here and select and toggle through, and selecting it one more time will open up your ribbon. And this is the preferred view where all the commands are visible. So as I said, you'll be in this architecture tab 90% of the time. One of the commands you're going to need to access is in the View ribbon. If you ever open up Revit and some of your menus are gone, let's say this Properties menu has disappeared, you can accidentally close it, or your project browser has disappeared, you can accidentally close it. Come to the View command, come to the User Interface command, select the pull-down menu, and you could turn your project browser back on. And you could turn your Properties browser back on. So now they're both visible. And you will need both of these menus all the time, so make sure they stay turned on. I'm going to go back to my Architecture tab, and I'm going to select Wall. Notice when I do, my Properties menu is changed, and now it says Basic Wall, and it's Basic Wall Generic 8-inch. Also, when I selected Wall, my ribbon changed with the commands that are unique to my wall command. And I'm going to draw some walls, but before I do, I'm going to verify that in my project browser, I'm going to verify that I'm at level 1. So if I'm going to come down to floor plans. If it's not open, you can open up this window here, and double click on level 1, go back to walls, and in this edit menu, select the rectangle tool. And here in the center of these 4 markers, draw a rectangle and make it about 30 feet by 20, about like that. Selecting modify once will exit out of the command. Selecting modify twice will exit you completely out of the command, similar to hitting the escape key. I mentioned that you want to place your house in the center of these 4 markers. I should have mentioned that if you cannot see the 4 markers, you could zoom in and out, and you could do that by rolling your scroll button. So if you roll your scroll button, you could zoom in and out. Also, if you're really zoomed in, you could zoom out to fit by double-clicking your scroll button. So on your mouse, if you double-click on the red scroll button, it'll zoom to fit. So this zooms in. Double-clicking zooms all the way out. There is one other command if you want to pan around. You press the scroll button, and holding it down, you move your mouse left and right. So that's press down your scroll button and move your mouse, and you can pan. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to add a door. I'm going to go to my door command. Notice that my properties menu now shows door properties. Keep in mind I'm still at level 1, and I'm going to simply place a door. Notice that as I position the door towards the inside of the house, the door is placed on the inside. If I position my cursor just to the outside wall, it places the door swinging out. Now, exterior doors always swing in. Now, in residential houses, the door typically swings in. In commercial, the door swings out. I click and I place my door. I'm going to zoom in. Notice these buttons. If I toggle these blue arrows, it'll toggle the orientation of the door. And also if I toggle these, it'll toggle the swing of the door. Hit modify to get out of that command. I'm going to add a window. I'm going to go to the window command. Notice my properties menu changes and it shows a window. Still at level 1. I'm going to place my window right about there. I want to look at the side of my house. As I mentioned, we put down our walls, our house, on level 1. If you go to your project browser, and if you scroll down, you'll see that there's some elevation views. You can't see these views east, north, south, and west. You can toggle open the elevations. So these 4 views, east, north, south, and west, correspond to these markers. Think of these markers as cameras. So this marker is the arrow is pointing in this direction, and it's looking at my house from this direction, and so forth. This camera is looking at this wall of my house. So I'm looking straight down. This is my north elevation marker, east, and you notice as I hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. This is the east elevation, and this is the west elevation, and south elevation. So to understand how this works, this camera is looking at the south facing wall of my house, and that would be referred to as the south elevation. So this camera is looking at the south facing wall of the house. If I come here to south, double click, and now I'm looking at the south facing wall of my house, and there's my door. Going back to level 1, I'm looking straight down, and I'm going to look at this camera, my east elevation, and I'm going to look at this east-facing wall where my window is. So I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to select east, and now I'm looking straight at the east-facing wall of my house, and there is my window. Go back to level 1, and I'm looking straight down. So when I built these walls, I mentioned that I put them on level 1, and let me show you what that means. If I go to my south elevation, and if I pan across, you notice that these lines here, actually they're planes, and this is level 1, and this, zoom in, it says level 1, and it corresponds to my floor plan, my level 1 floor plan, not my ceiling plan, but my floor plan, my level 1 floor plan. And I can select it. And if you notice, if I select the level 1, there's this small bubble here at the end. It's a grip. And if I grab that grip, I can move these elevation markers across just to make it a little bit more obvious. This is just for demonstration purposes. You don't need to move them. But you notice that the bottom of the wall is sitting at level 1, and level 1 is at 0, 0, essentially ground level. And this level 2 is 10 feet above that level. I'm going to go back to level 1 and zoom in. I'm going to grab my walls. I'm going to hold the control key down. I'm going to grab all 4 walls, holding the control key. And notice in my properties menu, here under top constraint, it says unconnected. Well, I really wanted my walls to go to up to level 2. So I'm going to select up to level 2. Now it says my top constraint is up to level 2. If I go down, back down to my south elevation, now notice there's my south elevation, my door, and now I've moved my walls down to level 2. So now the height of my walls are correct, starting at level 1 and going up to level 2. Now if I wanted to look at a 3D view of my house, I could come to my quick access toolbar and select this icon, default 3D view. Select on that. I'm going to zoom in and out, and there's my house. Now, just like in Inventor, I could orbit around the orientation of my house. If I hold the Shift key down, the middle mouse button, and rotate around my mouse. So what I'm doing is I'm holding down my Shift key, I'm pressing down on my scroll button, and I'm moving my mouse left and right. So I'm holding down my Shift key, pressing down my scroll button, and I could orbit around. So I'm going to go back to level 1 just to reset things. If I go back to level 1 and then go back to my 3D viewer, I can use this view cube to orient my house too. If I select on this view here, the front, it'll show my front view, and select this arrow, it'll look at my right side view, just like Inventor. And going back to my front view, and just like in Inventor, if I hit the corner of the cube, it'll give me an ISO view. The commands are very similar to Inventor.